Hey, Freshman Multimedia, this is for you, the people who did not have the pleasure of being in class to go over the cropping, resizing, and rotating images, or maybe you just need to refresh the information that you learned before. So here we go with another brilliant video by me, the left-handed genius, Mr. Peter Cheney. So we started some photography stuff, which is going to blend with our graphic design stuff that's coming up in the next few weeks, and some of the techniques that we need to learn, not just for doing projects but also for the quiz that I talked about, is these three tools: cropping, resizing, and rotating images. So before I got into those tools, I did talk about some of these image editing 101 features, which I'll do now really quickly. So we were on this website, it's GCF Global Learn Free, and we were just talking about the basics of digital images in photography. So we talked about pixels, and we talked about how digital photos are made up of pixels. Abbreviation is PX, and they're tiny squares, and they use a specific color. Every square has a specific color to make up a bigger picture, like this bridge in San Francisco. So when you look at an image on a computer, you're really looking at thousands and thousands of pixels, sometimes millions. But because each pixel is so small, you normally won't notice each of them unless you zoom in like so. Now when we're talking about dimensions, you'll often notice when you're downloading pictures from the internet or when you're taking them from your camera, you'll see numbers. One number by another number. So the first number is normally the height and the other is the width. So when you have a picture that is 500 pixels by 200 pixels, they're saying here that the width is usually first, so 500 would be this way, 200 would be height. Okay, so when you have an image that is a larger number wide, that's going to be a landscape orientation, like this picture of the squirrel here. So 450 pixels wide, 300 pixels tall. Conversely, if you have an image that is a smaller number is wide and it is taller than it is wide, that's going to be what they call a portrait orientation. So these three things for sure, pixel, the abbreviation, and the dimension parts with landscape and portrait orientation is definitely material for the photography quiz stuff. So moving on, resolution. When we're talking about resolution, it's the amount of detail that's in an image. Higher the resolution, more quality the image will have. Resolution is especially important if you're thinking of printing or resizing an image, because you can generally make an image smaller without noticing much of a difference in the quality. However, making an image larger than its original size will usually result in a noticeable loss in quality. For instance, here's an original picture. If you were to reduce it down, the quality stays the same. But if you take this small picture and then blow it up, you can see that the quality degrades and it gets blurry and pixelated. Some of the formats that we'll talk about that we'll use are compression formats, because when you take a picture with a fancy DSLR camera, they are raw images and have very big file sizes, so they more often than not need to be compressed. There's lossy file types, which when they compress, they remove some information, so it's a lower overall quality, not a terrible quality, just lower. And then there's lossless, which the compression type, it doesn't remove any information, it does compress it, but the file size is going to be larger because you're not losing any data from the picture. So this example right here, as far as remembering high quality levels versus file size, if I were to take this all the way down to 16 kilobytes, you can see that the quality of the picture isn't great. It's kind of fuzzy. You don't see the ridges very well, the details in this picture. 16 kilobytes is a pretty small file. If I go all the way up to 272 kilobytes, then I have really, really good detail and I can see the ridges on the candy and that sort of thing. Depending on my project, that might be the quality that I need, but most of the time we're talking somewhere in between. So 272 kilobytes, maybe on our project, for school use only, you might go halfway in between. You're seeing a pretty good picture here with details and the color. Okay, so the different types of files that we're going to be working with: JPEG, JPEG. It's a file type that's commonly used for photographs, and most digital cameras will save in that type. file. It's a lossy compression, which means that it's a reasonably high level of quality without a very large file size, because you're losing some of the data when you save that way. PNG or PNG is another common file that is used with graphics and illustrations mostly, while JPEG is for photographs. It's a lossless compression, meaning you don't lose any data, so it's going to be a larger file size and most of the time a higher quality picture. The other one that you guys are familiar with probably is GIF or GIF, and more specifically animated GIFs, so pictures that move. So that's something that we'll be working with as well. So moving on to some of this stuff, we're going to be working with cropping, resizing, and rotating here in a second. And just as a brief overview, there are lots of different ways that we can edit photographs, either from the internet or photographs that we make ourselves. Windows has a built-in thing called Microsoft Paint and Microsoft Photos. Our phones all have multiple apps that we can use. The one that we'll be using today is Pixlr, and we'll move on to using Photoshop as well. Microsoft Office, we've already gotten some experience with that by using PowerPoint. So you can do a lot of formatting with pictures right inside of the Microsoft Office suite with Word, PowerPoint, and so on. Photoshop, again, we'll get into later in this class. Pixlr is something we're going to use today and for the next few weeks. Okay, so here is the assignment that is on Google Classroom. So I'm going to show you right here the assignment. We are cropping and rotating the 6 images that we just saw on the website, and we are going to turn it into this assignment. So here's what we do. Let's go back. So we need to save all the pictures first. So these are the smallest versions of these pictures. I want to left click my mouse and then right click and save these images. And what's cool is that they save them with the word full size on the end, which that's great. So I'm going to put those in my picture folder since we're dealing with pictures. So we'll press save, and then we're going to do that for all of these images. So I'm going to go back, left click, then right click. Right click to get the image, and again they're going to name these files at the end for full size, which is going to help us when we go and do our changes. So full size there, saving, and I'm going to do that for each one of these files. Now that I have all the files that I need saved, we're going to be going through and doing the actual tools using Pixlr. So we can get to Pixlr by going here, and the very first image that we're going to do is, let's get to my pictures, we're going to do the butterfly. So I'm going to open up Butterfly. We're going to do full HD because we can, and it's the highest quality, so we'll open that up, and our very first thing that we're going to be doing is doing cropping. So cropping is removing parts of an image, and you can think of it as like a pair of scissors to cut out parts that you no longer want. And then resizing, we're going to be making images smaller than the largest, so I'll show you the technique in Pixlr on how to do that. And then rotating, if you want to change the orientation of an image, you rotate it to the left or right, or what I'll be doing, you can do it upside down too if you needed to. So we'll go through that. Now getting to Pixlr again, you can click there or just go pixlr.com. We want to do Pixlr X and not Pixlr E right now, so that's what we'll be doing. So the instructions for what we're doing is down further on this page, and so you'll see we're going to do the butterfly, the original image, we're going to crop, and then we're going to get a cropped picture. So that way we have the full-size picture that we'll turn in, and then you're going to turn in what you cropped. So here's the instructions. I'll show you on Pixlr itself. Full image. This is our crop feature. You can see the sizing handles will show up in white. And what I'm going to do is going to go from the corners and all the adjust up, and this is how much I want to have. I want to show the butterflies. So once I'm happy with my cropping, I'm going to apply it, and then I'm going to save it. Now I don't want to call this full size because it's not full size anymore. I'm going to call it cropped. So now I have a butterfly full size, and now I have a butterfly cropped. So we're good to go there. We will download it and then move on to the next picture. So the next picture I'm going to do, we're going to do a resize of that picture. So I'm going to hit this home. I'm going to open another image, and I'm going to go with the heron. We're going to create new, and what we're doing is resizing. So we go here to layout and template, we resize the image, and this is 1920 by 1284, so I'm going to go way smaller. I'm going to go 700, and it's going to change this number down here because this proportions toggle switch is there. So if that were not there, I could do any number I want, but to keep proportions, all I have to do is change one number to keep it that way. So 700 by 468 makes it much smaller. We're going to save that, and instead of full size, we're going to call it heron smaller. And then the last technique that I'm going to show you is the rotation. And then on the last three pictures, you're going to pick which tools you're going to use to do the last three. So you're going to have a total of 12 pictures, the 6 originals and the 6 that you have made some sort of change to. So this is tool number 3, which is the rotation. I'm going to use this picture, and you can choose which picture you want to do which tool to. And then I'm going to show you how to turn it in. So here's the 2 people in the park. I'm going to go back to crop because that's also the rotate, and I'm going to rotate until they're upside down. And I'm going to apply that. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to put park rotated so I know which pictures that I'm using. And now I'm going to show you how to turn this in. The difference is that you are going to go finish the last 3 pictures. You're going to have 12 pictures, 6 originals and 6 that you have rotated, cropped, or changed the size of. So here's how we turn it in. On the student side, you're going to click this button right here, add or create, and we're going to create a doc. And what's cool about that is that it's going to save everything that you do automatically, and that will help greatly. And it also names things, so it's got your name and it already names the document. So now we're going to put our pictures in. We're going to insert the original picture that we cropped, so butterfly full size. And then we're going to click enter a couple times, and then we're going to insert right below it the butterfly cropped. It's just going to be in my downloads because that's what the website does. So there's butterfly cropped. And so you can see the difference. There's the full size picture, there's the cropped picture. Now I'm going to insert and put in the other 2 pictures. So in my pictures folder, I did the heron full size, and then I resized that to something else. So I'm going to go put that in below it, which is in my download. So heron smaller, and so I'm going to put in the last one for me. Your last one will be the 6th picture, but pictures, my full size park is this one, and then I'm going to press enter a couple times and then insert my rotated one, which should be upside down. So here we go with rotated, and I'm good to go. So the difference for you, you keep going, put in the last 3 pictures. The last pictures you should see and actually work with are the flower, the lily, and the wasp picture. So you get to choose which one you crop, rotate, and resize and put it on this document. Once you are done with the entire document, then you can turn it in and move on to the next assignment, which will be on a different video. Alright, any questions? Refer back to this video, ask a friend next to you, or ask me in class and we will get this done together. See you back in class.